May I take this opportunity to welcome each one of you to this seminar on understanding the concept of criminal conspiracy and abatement. I welcome you all and thank you for taking the time off to join us in these deliberations. I would like to take this opportunity to let you all know that Honorable Justice Mr. K.G. Balakrishnan, former Chief Justice of India, is our mentor. I now take this opportunity to welcome our chief guest, Advocate D.K. Singh, Vice Chairman, Bar Council of Delhi. Mr. D.K. Singh has more than 21 years of experience of practicing as a lawyer at Supreme Court of India, Delhi High Court. Mr. D.K. Singh has represented his clients in number of matters in different forums on issues related to various branches of law. May I now take this opportunity to welcome our keynote speaker, Advocate Kanika Bhardwaj, Supreme Court of India. She is the founder and partner of a full-time law firm, Kanika Bhardwaj Law Firm. She is in the field of litigation since 6 years approx. Ms. Kanika Bhardwaj has completed her LLB from Lloyd College and her Masters in Business Law from Amity Law School. She has an expert level of experience in criminal cases, corporate, matrimonial, insurance, etc. Presently, she is working on cases all over Delhi, NCR, and Mumbai in all district courts, High Court of Delhi, High Court of Mumbai, and Supreme Court of India. Apart from courts, she is also working on cases in various tribunals and is on the panel of Yamuna Expressway Industrial Development Authority. May I now take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Amit Kumar Jain, Director, CPJ Law College, Delhi, who will be the moderator for today's session. Dr. Amit Kumar Jain has a long record of winning great respect from the higher education sector of India and abroad. Dr. Amit Kumar Jain is Director, Professor, Advisor, as well as Founder Director of various center institutions. He has published more than 81 research papers in reputed journals and proceedings of international and national conferences. He has authored 8 books, co-authored 4 books, and co-edited 15 conference proceedings. He is a member of Board of Governance, Advisory Council, Academic Executive Member, Board of Studies, and special member of many Indian and foreign universities as well as industry. Dr. Amit Kumar Jain has received a number of awards and honors and was recipient of National Merit Scholarship. May I now request Mr. D.K. Singh to kindly inaugurate the session. Sir.
Namaskar. Good evening to everyone. Really, I'm very extremely indebted to the organizer, Mr. Rajinder Pal Singh, particularly for having me invited here and giving me this opportunity to share my views. Today's topic is abatement. The abatement has been defined in section 107 to 120 IPC chapter number 5. The meaning of the abatement is to instigate, to help, to get, to encourage someone to do illegal act which is punishable under the provision of Indian Penal Code. The offense of abatement is inchoate offense, which means this offense is incomplete. That's why it is called inchoate offense. The abatement consists of 3 acts laid down in under section 107 IPC. How and by which means the abatement can be made. Number 1, ingredient, that is the instigation by instigating a person to commit an offense. The second one is by engaging in conspiracy to commit an offense. Third, intentionally aiding to person to commit an offense. And the second topic interrelated is criminal conspiracy. Criminal conspiracy has been defined under section 120A IPC. But before going through the definition of the criminal conspiracy, we must know the historical background of adding the offense of criminal or conspiracy in IPC. The section 120A was introduced by the amendment in the year of 1913 in 13 in IPC. Before, it was the only section under section 107 the conspiracy was defined. But in the need was felt in the year of 1913 to add the criminal conspiracy. That abatement by the conspiracy was provided for. The purpose of the amendment was to make the offense of criminal conspiracy more broad and expansive. It also included even the agreement to committed an act prohibited by law as well as an act which would give rise to ground for civil action. As far as the section 120A conspiracy is concerned, that there must be an agreement. The first and foremost requirement is the agreement between two or more persons who are alleged to conspire. The agreement should be for illegal act, an act which may be not illegal itself, but it is done by the illegal means. The gist of the offense, as far as the conspiracy is concerned, agreement between two or more persons to commit an offense to an act which is prohibited by law or an act which is give the ground for civil action. Earlier, at the time when this IPC was enacted, the civil action was not there. By adding the section 120A CRPC in the IPC in definition for civil action, it has been made the ground. The sum act would be done in person of the conspiracy. As far as the conspiracy is concerned, it is an agreement to commit an offense to make an agreement is sufficient. There is some difference between the criminal conspiracy and abatement. Abatement is a genus and the conspiracy is species. The second one is the abatement per se is not a substantive offense. The criminal conspiracy is a substantive offense and punishable. The abatement can be committed by one or more, but the conspiracy can be committed by at least two or more than two. Under section 107, mere an agreement would not make a person liable for the abatement by conspiracy, but the abatement by conspiracy is required to some act or illegal omission should have been done either of the parties. Whereas the section 120A, the agreement per se would create an offense of criminal conspiracy. And today topic is very interesting topic, and I am also sharing my views. Being a criminal lawyer, so many my colleagues, Mr. Rishi Kulshrestha is also the participant today. He is the icon for IPR, and he has completed PhD from Delhi universities, and he is a icon for this field. And Mr. Rahul Tyagi is the topper of the IP college, and Mr. Priyam Pandey and one of my chamber member, she is a very good lawyer, Miss Anamika Sinha, Anamika Bagh and Smriti. My best wishes for all the students and all. Mr. Amit ji is also here, and Kanika Bhardwaj she is also promising lawyer. My best wishes for all the participants, Amit ji, and particularly Mr. Rajinder Pal Singh ji. Thank you very much. And Mr. Amit ji and Kanika Bhardwaj enlighten you in this particular.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir. May I now request Dr. Amit Kumar Jain to kindly moderate the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So today's topic is the concept of conspiracy and abetment. So I can say that about some of the today's topic, that the punishment for the abetment and the criminal conspiracy, in which whosoever abets is a party to the criminal conspiracy. to commit. And it is an offense which is punishable under this chapter, we can say. And whether such an offense be committed or not committed in the consequence of any amendment, in pursuance of the criminal conspiracy all the times, with the section 116 of Indian Penal Code, that is 45 of 1860, we can say it will be punishable with the punishment provided for the offense. So a person who abets or is a party to criminal conspiracy to commit an offense within the meaning of the section in India, we can say that abets is a party to a criminal conspiracy to the commission, that we can say, and it would constitute an offense that will be committed within India or not under the laws of such place, that is an offense related to the narcotic drugs or the psychotropic substances which is having any legal conditions required to constitute. So with this, I may request to Advocate Kanika Bhardwaj to say something, to say a few words on this criminal conspiracy, that how these abetments and the punishment of this section takes place, like she says about this.
First of all, good evening to everyone and heartiest welcome. First of all, I would like to thank you for introducing me. Also, I would want to mention that I'm really glad and it is an honor to be speaking in the presence of such dignitaries and honorable people. So I thanks once again for inviting me here for the topic of understanding the concept of criminal conspiracy and abatement. So today's topic is very interesting, and apart from being interesting, it is really very wide. And I hope this session will be knowledgeable for all the participants here. Even though the concept is wide, as I have already mentioned, I will try to cover maximum points in this webinar so that we all have a basic understanding of this concept. The idea is to understand this concept in a very basic manner because it is really very wide. So as Dr. Amit Jain has said that I have to start with the topic of criminal conspiracy, I would like to mention and I would like to highlight a little bit of abatement first. So the abatement means, as the word suggests, to aid, to assist, or to give aid, to command, or to counsel, to encourage, to set another one to commit. So this is the basic meaning of abatement in a very layman language. Whereas conspiracy is a crime and is punishable primarily because an agreement to commit a crime, is a decisive act fraught with potential charges. So both the concepts seems to be very similar but have many differences on technical grounds that we will understand in details. So as D.K. Singh sir has already said, abatement is genus while the conspiracy is species. So conspiracy is one of the methods of abatement, we can say. Crime of abatement is explained in sections 107 to 120 of the code, while the crime of conspiracy is explained in sections 120A and 120B of the code. So I would like to share. Can I share a PPT, because I have a PPT also?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can share. Yes, ma'am. You can share.
Okay, so I hope you are able to see the PPT. All right, so to understand the topic of criminal conspiracy, we should know a little bit of history regarding the same. We must know that from where the term came up and how it came up. So there was a case it was the case in England. As you can see, I have given the citation also. It was declared by the House of Lords. They said that a conspiracy consists not merely in the intention of two or more, but in the agreement of two or more to do an unlawful act by unlawful means. So this is a term which was the judgment which was given, and after this judgment only, IPC was amended. In 1870 as to insert section 120A and section 120B in IPC, which defines criminal conspiracy, section 120A defines criminal conspiracy, and section 120B defines punishment for the criminal conspiracy. Chapter 5A has been introduced in the court by the Criminal Law Amendment Act 1913. The object of this amendment was particularly to prevent the commission of crime by nipping them in the bud itself. So I would like to tell you the initial position. Initially, there was only two provisions to punish for conspiracy under IPC. The first one was section 107, which is also abatement, which made a conspiracy by the way of abatement punishable. So this section was already there in IPC initially, and there were other specific provisions. But now the situation has been changed. The current position is that the current position has, however, changed with the Indian Criminal Law Amendment Act 1913. Legislature inserted it in the aforesaid amendment. It consists of two sections, 120A and 120B. As I've already told you that 120A is for conspiracy, criminal conspiracy, and 120B is for punishment of criminal conspiracy. So now there are four provisions. There are law of conspiracy covers the following. I have given the pointers. So earlier there was only point number B and point number C. But after the amendment, the point number 1 and point number last point also got covered in the provisions. So this is the current provisions where you can find the provisions for conspiracy and the punishment. So I'll read out for you that the first one is conspiracy. This all is covered under IPC. The first one is conspiracy as a substantive offense. That is, conspiracy is in itself an offense. Second is conspiracy as a form of abatement, which was already there in IPC. Conspiracy to wage, attempt to, or abate war against the government of India. This was also amended. And the last one is involvement in specific offenses. From the last point, I mean that it covers section 310, section 311 of the IPC. Even section 400, 401 and 402 are also covered in this. So this is the current position. Now we will understand the concept of criminal conspiracy by the help of an example. First we learn the example and then I'll jump on to the legal definition. So I believe it is important to understand the practical aspect also, and it becomes easier to understand the legal definitions once you are clear with the practical approach. So here you can see, as you can see on the slide, there are 5 people, A, B, C, D, and E. These 5 people are planning to commit a robbery in a bank. These are 5 friends and they intend to commit robbery in a bank. So at the time of discussion, A, B, and C agreed. As you can see, the first point that A, B, and C agreed to commit robbery. They agreed. But D and E did not expressly say anything, but were present in all meetings at the time of robbery. So A and C expressly gave their consent that yes, they agree that yes, they want to commit robbery and they will plan accordingly. But D and E, they did not say anything, but they were always present in all the meetings when all the plannings and all the plottings were being done. They were D and E were always there, and even at the time when the robbery was being committed, D and E were present. So this is the at the outset, A, B, C have expressly given their consent, whereas D and E implicitly gave their consent. Now we can say that these friends are into an agreement. We can say that because whether the agreement is expressed, it doesn't matter. So whether an agreement is oral or written, it doesn't matter. But there was an agreement. So there was an agreement between all these 5 friends. So also they have intent to commit robbery. So now the next step is that they meet up. They meet up to make strategies. First what they did was they intend to commit a robbery. Then they meet up. And they started planning and plotting. They started pooling in money in it. They money in it to buy dresses and guns. And in this particular situation, all the 5 friends were there. So now it means that all 5 were present during the planning and plotting of the robbery. Now, one very interesting thing happened, that they call up their one of the friend, and his name was F. They told him that they are planning a robbery and try to lure him so that he also joins them, but he clearly denied. Now, F knows everything about the robbery, but he denied, but he chooses to stay silent. He did not inform anybody. He did not inform to the police officials or anybody. He decided that he will not participate, but he decided to stay silent. Now there are 6 people involved. Now on the day of robbery, what happened? There can only be 2 cases when they all went for the robbery. F has already said that he will not do the robbery. So he know the fact that robbery will be done on this particular day, but he did not do anything. Now on the day of robbery, they all 5 friends stand in the front of the bank, and there can only be 2 cases. The first case that can happen is that robbery is attempted but failed. They attempt the robbery, but the robbery failed. The second case that can happen is robbery is attempted and robbery is successful also. Now, it doesn't matter whether the robbery has failed or whether the robbery has been successful. All the people, including F, will be liable for the charges of criminal conspiracy. Now, as you can see, that this is the entire act of conspiracy that was being done. So this is the example of criminal conspiracy. Now moving on to the legal definition, now we'll be able to understand the legal definition in a better manner. Now moving on to a legal definition of criminal conspiracy, as I have already told that section 120A defines the criminal conspiracy. It says when 2 or more persons agree to do or cause to be done. Cause to be done means makes any other person to do any act. So when 2 or more persons agree to do or cause to be done, number 1, an illegal act. Illegal act means any act which is a crime or offense or which is forbidden by law or prohibited by law. The definition of illegal act has been given under IPC. You can go through that. So number 1, if 2 or more persons agree to do or cause to be done any, number 1 is any illegal act. Number 2 is an act which is not illegal but done by illegal means. So for example, importing of goods, it is not illegal. It is legal in India. Importing goods can be imported, but importing the goods in an with an illegal means is an offense. So this is the essence of criminal conspiracy. Further, we can say that such an agreement is designated a criminal conspiracy, provided that no agreement except an agreement to commit an offense shall amount to a criminal conspiracy unless some act beside the agreement is done by one or more parties to such agreement in pursuance thereof. So this was the definition of criminal conspiracy. I hope you are able to understand it. So now moving on to the next point, what are the ingredients of criminal conspiracy? So now here are 3 main ingredients that must be proved or satisfied in order to establish conviction under this section. Number 1 is involvement of 2 or more persons. There must be 2 or more persons because a single person cannot do conspiracy. The second one is existence of an agreement between the 2. It is important that there must be an agreement. Without an agreement, there can be no conspiracy because one person can be acting on with a different perspective and the other person may be acting on a different perspective. So it is important that in that case, if both are acting on a different perspective, it cannot be said as a conspiracy. Conspiracy is always in collectively. So existence of an agreement between the 2 is important. Now act upon the agreement, whether illegal or by legal means, to act upon an agreement is important. So these were the ingredients of criminal conspiracy. And now I'll move on to proof of conspiracy because we say that proving the conspiracy is very difficult. So direct evidence or primary evidence of conspiracy is almost an impossibility, as it is in a rare case only that there is a direct evidence of the place where the conspiracy was entered into. It is good in a case where if you got a direct evidence, it is really good. It will be able to prove your case, but it is very difficult to prove conspiracy in a particular case. So conspiracies have to be inferred from the subsequent conducts of the parties having regard to all the circumstances of the case, which is called as circumstantial evidence. So therefore, in determining the complicity of an individual, it is required to prove the circumstantial evidence existing post and prior to the commission of the crime. Interferences can be drawn from the conduct and circumstances of the situation and of the accused also. So there is a very famous judgment, which is P.K. Narayan versus State of Kerala, in which it was said that mere a suspicion without presence of any direct or indirect evidence instituting the prior meeting of minds cannot be grounds for conviction. It cannot be the grounds for conviction. The courts are mandated to inquire the existence of independency of the individuals pursuing the common design. If this is proved, then conspiracy does not exist, because as I've already said that conspiracy cannot be there when there are two or more people acting individually. If in a particular case it is proof that all the people are acting individually, then conspiracy does not exist. As I've already said, there must be an agreement, there must be meeting of minds also in order to make them convict. So the prosecution does not have the burden to prove an explicit agreement between the parties to the common design of conspiracy, and implications would suffice to entertain conviction under 120A. So now there are also certain conditions as provided by Section 10 of Indian Evidence Act. So it says the involvement, all these things, it is important to prove also. So the involvement of the parties forming an agreement must be proved by prima facie evidence. Number 2, after the aforementioned condition is satisfied, then anything done, written, or said in furtherance of the common intention will be evidence against all the parties. This has been said in particular case. I have given you the citation also. The next one is anything done, written, or said by any of the conspirators post the formation of common intention by any of the parties would be admissible. This is also said by a very important judgment of Supreme Court that I have given the citation also. You can go through. Now there is one important case called Somnath Thapa and others. It was observed that for a person to conspire with another, he must have knowledge of what the co-conspirators were wanting to achieve, and thereafter having the intent to further the illegal act's resource to a course of conduct to achieve the illegal end or facilitate its accomplishment. So it is important that the other co-conspirator must also be aware and have knowledge, as I've already explained you and given you the example, that in which the friend F, who had the knowledge of what the co-conspirators were doing, but he did not do anything. So it is said that he must have knowledge of what the co-conspirators were wanting to achieve. So this is one of the important judgment. Another judgment I would like to quote is Subramaniam Swamy versus A. Raja. It came in 2012. It was held that suspicion cannot take the place of legal proof. I'm repeating again that suspicion, mere a suspicion, cannot take the place of legal proof, and existence of a meeting between the accused persons is not by itself sufficient to infer the existence of criminal conspiracy. So even merely a suspicion, merely if you are suspicious that there might be a criminal conspiracy, would not prove the criminal conspiracy, and it would not amount to a person being convicted. So it is important to prove that the actual direct criminal conspiracy was there. So now I'll move on to the next section, which is punishment of the criminal conspiracy. Now we have understood what criminal conspiracy is. Now we'll see that what is the punishment of criminal conspiracy under section 120B. This section segregates conspiracy into two categories. For the purpose of punishment, there are two categories which have been segregated. Parties engaged in the conspiracy of commission of grave offences which have not been enumerated by Indian Penal Code are to be punished in the same manner as if they had abated of the offence. Usually such grave offences are punishable with death sentence, life imprisonment, or rigorous imprisonment. Further, the conspiracy to perpetrate any other offense or an illegal act is punished likewise with imprisonment which extend till 6 months or without fine, with or without fine. So now, so particularly section 120B clause 1 deals with the conspiracy of 3 types of offenses. They are as follows. Number 1 is an offense in which punishment is death. Number 2, an offense in which punishment is life imprisonment. And number 3 is an offense in which punishment is rigorous imprisonment for a term of 2 years or upwards. So according to section 120B clause 1, when there is no express provision regarding the conspiracy, when there is no express provision regarding the conspiracy of the aforesaid offenses in the code, then this section is applicable. For example, there can be a conspiracy in murder case also. Section 306, 307 can be applied, but apart from section 307, because there is already a provision given for criminal conspiracy. If the provision is, in 307, there is no provision given for criminal conspiracy. So now this section can be attracted. Only 120B will be attracted only in those cases where there is no specific provision in any of the section which has been given under IPC. If there is a provision in that particular section only, then this section will not apply. It will not be applicable. So now we'll read the legal definition in order to understand in a better way. So number 1, this is the legal term. This is the legal definition that I'm showing you on the slide. Number 1 is whoever is a party to a criminal conspiracy to commit an offense punishable with death, imprisonment or rigorous imprisonment for a term of 2 years or upwards, shall where no express provision is made in this code for the punishment of such a conspiracy be punished in the same manner as if he had abated such offense. Now, section 120B clause 2 deals with the criminal conspiracy of remaining offenses. Generally, it covers minor criminal offenses. In other words, we can say it covers the conspiracy of those offenses which is punishable with less than 2 years of imprisonment. Thus, the section imposes a nominal punishment, that is imprisonment for a term of 6 months, that I have already discussed with you. So this section says that a person who is party in criminal conspiracy other than 120B1 shall be punished with either imprisonment of not exceeding 6 months. This is only for the minor crimes. So this was of chapter 5 IPC, which is abatement. So sometimes indirectly sometimes indirectly participating in committing an offense itself may also become punishable offense. In such crimes, the offenders do not directly involve themselves in the offense. However, their abatement can become punishable offense in itself. These offenses relate to section 107, 108 IPC under the chapter of abatement. The concept of abatement widens the horizons of criminal law to incorporate these in criminal intentions and penalize them even when the person who brought the knife did not actually kill anyone but handed it over to someone else to do it. So to explain the concept of abatement, the word abate should be given a deep scrutiny. In general use, it means to aid, advance, assist, help, or promote. So in case of Sanju versus State of Madhya Pradesh, the Supreme Court has defined the term abate, that I have already explained you, that abate means to aid, to assist, or to give aid, or to encourage, or to set another one to commit. The definition of abate as laid down makes it clear that abatement only occurs when there are at least 2 persons involved, which further directs us towards arrangement and operation of the act. For example, now I am giving you the example of abatement. For example, one person may procure a gun and hand it over to the another, who may shoot somebody with it. The former person is guilty of abatement, while the latter commits the murder. I'll repeat the example for you. That one person may procure a gun and hand it over to the another, who may shoot somebody with it. So one person has handed over the gun and the other person had shoot it. So the former person is guilty of abatement, while the latter commits the murder. So in usual parlance, a person is held to be liable only if he or she has personally committed a crime. But the concept of abatement says that he who has helped the criminal or provided him with any assistance in any form can also be held to be liable. The section says that abatement basically takes place when a person abates the doing of a thing by number one, instigating. This is the definition which has been laid down in IPC. Number one is instigating a person to do that thing. Instigation basically means suggesting, encouraging, or inciting a person to do or abstain from doing something. Instigation may take place either directly or indirectly by written words or oral words, or even by gestures or by hints. So there are two types of instigation. Number one is direct instigation. Number one is indirect instigation. So direct instigation is an act which is done on the direct command. There must be a direct command, an active simulation of another person.
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt you. Anybody who's doing like that in the screen, please don't do like that. Ma'am, please continue.
Okay, so let's continue the topic. So we were talking about conspiracy as a form of abatement, and we were talking about section 107, which specifically defines abatement. So I was showing you the slide which exactly covers what abatement is, and this is the legal definition that I'm showing you on the screen. So as you can see, the first thing that has to be there in abatement is instigation. So instigation can be of two types. It can be directly or indirectly. So directly instigation means an act which is done on direct command and on active command of the other person. And indirect is, it may be by a letter, by an act committed by through post, through letter, or such kind of a things. So there are two things, direct instigation and indirect instigation. So now I'll give you a very interesting judgment. So there was a judgment of Prem Narayan versus State, AIR 1957, in which what happened was, where a murderer was cited by these words. There was a murderer who was standing with a knife, and then the other person who was his supporter, what he said was, he was instigating him like anything. He was saying कि मारो इसको, ये मौका है, अभी मारो इसको, क्या दिक्कत है, उसको मार डालो. He was instigating him in such a way that the other person, he actually did the murder. He actually did the murder of that person. So it was held that the charge of abatement was sufficiently made out against that person who was shouting and instigating the other person to commit an offense. The instigation must be, this is one of the points that you should be note, that the instigation must be sufficient to actively encourage a person to commit an offense. It should not be mere advice or simple suggestion. It cannot be a simple suggestion that I am suggesting you that you should do this, and that person goes and does the murder, and then you say that abatement has been attracted. That will not be the case. There must be a sufficient and actively encouragement by the one person to the other. Moreover, for an individual to be called liable for abatement and so as to proceed against an individual for a criminal offense under section 107, a prosecution must claim the component of mens rea. Mens rea means intention, intent. So it must claim the component of mens rea. Negligence or carelessness cannot be named to be abatement. We cannot say that this was negligently this happened, or it carelessly happened. So if we say like this, it cannot be termed as abatement. If we are able to prove in the court that this person was negligent or this person was careless, then he can be free from the liability of abatement. So in order to punish the person, it is important to prove that there should be no negligence and carelessness also. So as to establish abatement, the abater must have appeared to deliberately support the commission of the wrongdoing. Deliberately means, again, the concept of mens rea comes in. So he should be deliberately, intentionally, he should be supporting the wrongdoer. In such a case, we need to just prove in the court that the wrongdoing charged couldn't have been done without the association as well as intervention of the supposed abater is insufficient with the prerequisites of section 107. It means that we have to prove that this particular act, for example, the particular act of murder, could not be possible when if the other person has not provoked the murderer to commit a crime. So it is important to establish the fact that he must be actively participated, and the particular act must have not be possible because of his provocation. So there is also an explanation to this section under the IPC. This section throws some light on what instigation may mean in this context. It says that instigation may generally happen even by number one, willful misrepresentation, or by number two, willful concealment of a material fact which a person is bound to disclose. This means that a person should or must disclose such particular act. He knew that if he will not disclose this particular act, or if he will not disclose this particular information, a crime will occur. He knows the fact, but he deliberately did not disclose this fact. So even under this the abatement, the instigation can happen and the charges of abatement can be attracted. Now, for example, a court directs Amit, who is a police officer, a court directs a police officer to arrest Raj under an arrest warrant. The court directs him that he's a police officer, go and arrest this person. Now, what happens is that there is another person in between who tells the police officer that this person is Raj, but in actual this person was not Raj. He deliberately says that this person is Raj, and the police officer goes and arrests that person. So now the person who has concealed the fact that this person is not a criminal, this person is somebody else, that person can be attracted and will be liable for the section of abatement. This was instigation. This was instigating any person to do that thing. So this was all about clause number one. Now jumping on to clause number two, which is engaging with another person in a conspiracy to do that thing. It means abatement by conspiracy. Now you'll say that criminal conspiracy is there also, and we are studying here also, but there is a difference between this particular section and the section that we have already covered under 120AB and 120A and 120B under IPC. So there is a difference that I'll be telling you in a very short notice. So conspiracy, under this section also, conspiracy basically means an agreement between two or more persons to commit an unlawful act. Merely intending to commit an offense is not sufficient for this purpose. Thus, the conspirators must actively agree and prepare themselves to commit that particular offense. It becomes a conspiracy. Furthermore, the act which the conspirators conspire to commit itself must be illegal or punishable. A very good example of this is a dowry death. So in a dowry death cases, what we see is that in-laws of the victim are often guilty of abatement by conspiracy. They may do so by constantly taunting, torturing, harassing the victim. So what they are doing? They are conspiring against a particular victim. So dowry death cases is a very good example of this particular clause. Now I'll move to what are the ingredients of abatement. Now I'll move on to what are the ingredients of abatement of conspiracy. So first of all, I would like to tell you the difference between, so that you do not get confused, the difference between the first conspiracy and the other conspiracy. For an offense under this clause of section, a mere combination of persons or agreement is not enough. In previous conspiracy, we have seen in criminal conspiracy under section 120A and B that mere combination of persons or agreement was sufficient to say and attract the charges. But under this, mere combination of persons or agreement is not enough. An act or an illegal omission must take place in pursuance of the conspiracy. But there must be an act also under this. Mere combination and agreement and sitting and doing conspiracy will not, as I have said in dowry death. In dowry death, merely sitting and doing planning and plotting against a victim will not make charges, will not frame charges of abatement until and unless the dowry death has been committed, until and unless that person the victim has been died by that abatement. So this is the difference between this conspiracy and the previous one that we have studied. Another example I would like to give you, that a servant enters into an agreement with thieves. So a thief and servant has a combination here. A servant enters into an agreement with thieves to keep the door of his master house open in the night so that they might commit theft. A, according to the agreed plan, who is a servant, he keeps the door open and the thieves take away the master's property. Now A is guilty of abatement by conspiracy for the abatement of, also with the offense of theft. But should the thieves not come, A will not be liable under this section. If it was the case that the thieves did not come and thieves did not take the property of the master, then the servant A, who was a servant, will not be liable for the section of abatement. He will only be liable when the act has been completed. This is mandatory in abatement, but this was not mandatory in criminal conspiracy, as that we have learned previously. So though there is a close association of conspiracy with the incitement and abatement, the substantive offense of criminal conspiracy is somewhat wider in amplitude than abatement by conspiracy as contemplated under section 107 of IPC. There is no analogy between section 120B and section 109 of Indian Penal Code. There is no analogy in these both sections. There may be an element of abatement in conspiracy, but conspiracy is something more than an abatement. Now, the third clause is, the first one was instigation, the second one was conspiracy in the form of abatement, the third one is intentionally aids. So whoever intentionally aiding a person to do that thing, it means abatement by aiding. The third manner in which abatement may take place is by intentionally aiding the offender in committing that offense. This generally happens when the abater facilitates the crime or helps the crime in committing it. The intention to aid the offender is very important. For example, merely giving food or clothes to an alleged offender may not be punishable, but giving him food, clothes and shelter to help him hide from police or commit a crime punishable can be a form of abatement. The other topic that I would like to discuss here is abatement in marriages. The clause intentionally aids. The abatement in marriage comes under clause 3 of this section only, intentionally aiding. So the clause intentionally aids has a wide interpretation which covers the cruelty done to a married woman in committing suicide or other crime. In a very famous case called Dina Lal versus State of Rajasthan, it is a very interesting case. What happened in this case was a group followed a widow to the funeral of her husband to help her committing sati. So there was a group who was following a widow to help. The entire group was helping her committing in sati. Since sati is abolished and its practice is punishable under the law, the police, since everybody knew that it is abolished and it is punishable under the law, but they again helped the widow to commit sati, and the woman committed sati and she died. So they not even one of the person tried to rescue her. So all the people in the group were liable for abating. This is a judgment of Supreme Court, Dina Lal versus State of Rajasthan. So the entire group of the people were liable for abatement and they were convicted also. So you can go through this judgment. It is a very nice judgment. Now we come on ingredients of abatement. What are the ingredients of abatement? There are 3 ingredients. Number 1 is doing an act that directly assists the combination of the crime. Number 2, illegal omission of a duty you are bound to do. Any illegal omission. You knew the fact that this is punishable by law, and you knew the fact that if you did not disclose this particular statement or this particular information, you haven't given this information to anyone, the consequence will be commission of an offense. Then also the particular sections of abatement will be attracted, and the accused person will be liable and will be held guilty. The third one is doing any act that facilitates the commission of a crime, which is again given in a very nice judgment of Faguna Kanta Nath versus State of Assam. For example, two factory workers begin quarreling and the owner in a fit of anger shouts that if he had weapon, he would teach them a lesson. So what happens that in a factory that two laborers and they started this no one of the laborer and the owner, they started fighting with each other, and the owner said that he made a statement that in case I would have a weapon, I would have killed you. He said that in open in front of everyone. Now what happened there, another laborer came, he gave a gun in the hand of the owner, and in the anger, in the frustration, the owner shot the gun and he shot the laborer and he injures them. The laborer who supplied the weapon to the owner will be liable, and he will be charged with the sections of abatement, and he'll be liable and he'll be convicted also. So this is also a judgment which is in Supreme Court, but it must be noted that in order to constitute abatement by aiding within the meaning of the third para of the section 107, the abater must be shown to have intentionally aided the commission of the crime. It is important to prove this point also. A person may invite another casually for a friendly purpose, and that may facilitate the murder of the invitee. But unless it is shown that the invitation was extended with a view to facilitate the commission of the murder, it cannot be said that person extended the invitation had abated the murder. So the language used in this section intentionally aids, and therefore the language is used itself, it is used that intentionally aids can abate a minor also, or somebody else who is not capable of punishment under the law to commit a crime. In such a situation, the abater is still guilty of abating a crime. It is not even not necessary that the abater who abates somebody to perform some crime may directly know him or be concerned with him. As far as the person who has abated the commitment crime, the abater is guilty irrespective of the level of friendship they possess. The abater may directly or indirectly encourage a person to commit the crime. In such a case also, abater is still guilty. For example, A encourages B to encourage C to commit a crime. A has encouraged B to encourage C to commit a crime. In such a case also, A is abater, as B and also both are guilty under the abatement, but A is also the abater. So abater as defined under 108 of IPC is the person who abates in the commission of offense or in the commission of such an offense if done by a person not suffering from any mental or physical incapacity. Now I'll move on to the next point, which is liability of abater. So whether an abater may be tried and convicted separately from the principal offender is a question of procedure and not of substantive law. According to the law of procedure, they may be tried jointly as well as separately. It does not therefore make any difference in the position of abater if the principal offender is absconding. Also, the acquittal of the principal offender does not necessarily warrant the acquittal of the abater. Now I'll discuss the punishment of abatement. What is the punishment? Abatement of certain offenses is punishable under specific sections of IPC or under the laws. For example, abatement of suicide is punishable under section 306. However, when no specific provision exists, the abater will be punished with the abatement prescribed for the particular offense that he has abated. So this was criminal conspiracy, just a basic concept of criminal conspiracy and abatement. The last topic is difference between, just in order to understand in a better way, difference between criminal conspiracy and abatement. So as you can see, the first one is criminal conspiracy is a substantive offense by itself and is punishable as such, but abatement is not per se a substantive offense as per Indian Penal Code. The second is each accused is a principal offender. Each accused. But in abatement, abater is not a principal offender. Number third is it is an act or a planning to do an illegal act or by all the persons or any of them or by some of them. But in abatement, it is an act to instigate or to provide help to do an illegal act by the person who is instigated. The same, both the terms also differ in the punishments. As we can see as we've already discussed that under 120B, it covers the punishment of criminal conspiracy, and punishment of abatement is that whoever abates any offense shall, if the act abated is committed in the consequence of the abatement and no express provision is made by this court for the punishment of such abatement, be punished with the punishment provided for the offense, which is section 109. Conspiracy can be committed by two or more. It can be committed by two or more. Abatement can be committed by one person also. It is not necessary that in abatement there must be two people. Even one person can be attracted towards the charges of abatement. In conspiracy, criminal conspiracy, sanction of competent authorities, this is a very important point and a very important difference, that sanction of competent authorities is necessary to proceed against the conspirators who merely agree to commit a crime. This is only in criminal conspiracy, but in abatement, sanction of any competent authorities is not necessary to proceed against the abaters who merely abated to commit the crime while in conspiracy. So this was the basic understanding of both of these concepts. I hope I was able to make you understand the basic concept of criminal conspiracy and abatement. And now I hand over to the organizers.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this enlightening session. We are now open to question answer rounds.
Okay.
Participants can put their questions in the chat box or they can raise their hands. Participants can raise their questions in the chat box.
I believe that the entire topic is too wide that even the participants are wondering what to raise.
Ma'am, I think there has been some problem. Our organizer is not in the meeting right now. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
I think there has been some problem. Ma'am, I have a question. I would like to ask you something.
Yeah,
Ma'am, we have seen that in cases of dowry death cases, it has been seen that it's very to prove what is the procedure, like what can the prosecution do to prove that there has been abatement and conspiracy?
See, again, the question that you have asked, again, the evidence law steps in, and we have to proceed with the evidence law. We have various things that we can, there are various steps how we can prove the conspiracy in this. Number one is we can prove conspiracy by the audio recordings of the people. We can prove by that. We can prove by WhatsApp chats. For example, if the victim has committed suicide, we can even the circumstantial evidence can also be useful under this. For example, you have you must be heard about the case of Arushi Talwar, where the circumstantial evidence were being used to convict the parents of Arushi Talwar. So this was there was no direct proof as of they have committed a murder. There was no direct proof, but there was conspiracy. So again, the circumstantial evidence jumps in. Now, in the question that you've asked me, that even in this question, the circumstantial evidence will jump in. Apart from the material evidence that we have, for example, video recordings, photographs, we can prove conspiracy by that. But apart from that, even the circumstances and the situation will be considered, and the judicial approach will again jumps in. It will we will be taking help of various judgments and various judicial approaches in order to prove the conspiracy in such cases.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Madam, there is one question from Dr. A. Sampson. Madam, one person without knowing the plan of a group, standing with a group who plans for a crime, whether he will be charged under abetment?
See, you have yourself answered your question that he's planning for a crime. He is there in the group and he is planning for the crime. So yes, he will be charged under abatement. Because his intention, see, the crime is committed when there is mens rea. Mens rea is intention. If there is intention to commit a crime, intention is there. He wants to commit a crime. And he was there in the group also. So obviously he will be attracted towards the section of abatement.
Ma'am, there is a question from Muskan.
Right.
Can you explain, ma'am, can you explain the example that you had told of conspiracy of 6 friends?
Okay, so you want me to explain the entire example again? So I'll explain it very cut short. That what happened was there were 6 friends, and initially there were 5 friends, A, B, C, D, and 3 of the friends agree to commit a robbery. They all the 5 wanted to commit a robbery, and 3 of them agreed to commit a robbery, but 2 of them, they did not agree to commit a robbery. They do not say it, but they were present every time. On the day when the robbery was being committed, they were present. So their conduct itself proves that they want to be a part of the robbery. Their actions have proved it in itself. So on the day when the robbery was being happened, a few days before, they called their friend F. They called their friend and they told that we are doing a robbery, and if you want to join us, you can please join us and you will be rich. They started luring him, but then F denied. He said that no, you all 5 want to do a robbery, you do, I will not do. But then again, he knows the fact that the robbery has been happening in this particular day at this particular time, but he chose to stay silent. He did not tell anyone. He did not inform the police authorities. He did not do anything. He just sat quietly. Now on the day of robbery, all these 5 friends, they went to the bank. Now when they went to the bank, only 2 conditions may happen. Number 1, the robbery will be successful. Number 2, the robbery will not be successful. But even in both the cases, whether the robbery is successful or not successful, the charges will be attracted to all the 6 friends. Not to the 5 friends, to the 6th one also. Why? Because he knew that something was going to happen and he did not inform the police authorities. So what he did, he did a conspiracy. He did a conspiracy that he knew everything, that this particular offense has to be committed on this particular time, but he did not inform the police authority. Had it been a different case that he had went to the police authority and informed about the crime would have been stopped. So this also becomes a part of criminal conspiracy. So this was the entire example.
Ma'am, there is a question from Mr. Shahraz Ali Khan.
Right.
Is audio or video call recording considered as an evidence in the conspiracy or abetment?
See, it is a secondary evidence, not a primary one, but it can be considered as a secondary evidence. But then again, there are several judgments that nowadays what happens is that even fake WhatsApp chats are being generated. So So in order to give that particular evidence, like for any electronic record, you have to give a certificate under section 65B into the court in order to mention that what is the source of that particular uh, 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 audio recording or video recording or whatever. So you have to give the source as well under section 65B, and you have to prove that this recording and everything is genuine. So if you are able to prove it, then it will be considered as a secondary evidence, not a primary one though.
There is a question from Gurmeet. I'm unmuting you, Gurmeet.
There is so
Hello.
much of noise.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
हाँ जी मैम, क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी जो है वो ट्रेड मुझे मतलब बताइए. हेलो
Will you please repeat आप अपना question repeat करेंगे क्योंकि आपकी आवाज क्रैक हो रही है.
मैम, क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी इन ट्रेड यूनियन डिस्प्यूट.
In paid union dispute?
Ma'am,
Yes,
she's
ma'am.
asking. Yes, ma'am.
Trade union dispute.
Ma'am, trade union dispute.
Okay, this is in trade union dispute, criminal conspiracy in trade union. Then you have to be little specific because trade union is again it's a very wide. It's impossible to explain it in like a short span of time. If you have any specific situation, you can tell me. Then I can answer it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, there is a question that in recent we have seen in media that Sushant Rajput has done suicide, and his cousins filed a case of abetment.
Right.
So whether these stars are liable for abetment?
See, it depends. It obviously depends on the statements that have been, but a case has been made out. So at first that when the case has been made out, it means that the FIR has been done already. So the case has been made out. They can proceed if it is proved through circumstantial evidences or through by other evidences. For example, the statements. Right now, the police is taking statements of every person who is involved. So if the statements after getting the statements, if the police is or the court has the approach that is as per the circumstantial evidence, it seems reasonable that only because of these people this person Sushant Singh has committed suicide, then obviously they'll be liable. But the first thing that we should consider is the case has already been made out.
Ma'am, there is one question. When conspiracy is committed under 2 or more acts like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act plus Cyber Law, etc.
Right.
Such cases, how the prosecution takes place and the punishment awarded.
So you are asking me what is the punishment awarded?
Yes. How the prosecution takes place and the punishment awarded.
You are asking me on the point of criminal conspiracy or abatement?
When conspiracy is committed under 2 or more acts like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act plus Cyber Law, etc.
See, as I've already told you that in case where the provisions are not talking about the punishment, then only section 120B will be attracted. In case where the section itself says or talks about the provision of criminal conspiracy, then 120B will not be attracted. So it depends that whether a particular section that you have made various sections like cyber law, you have made 2-3 other sections also. So in case the provision of criminal conspiracy, the punishment has already been given in that provision, then the 120B will not be attracted. In case not given, then 120B will be attracted. So if you can be more specific, for example, if you would have asked me that whether the conspiracy will be attracted in murder or not, so I would say that the conspiracy has already been given in murder, so 120B will be attracted. So you have to be little specific, because when the 2-3 sections are already involved, apart, when there is a conspiracy and 2-3 sections are also there along with the conspiracy, we have to see that whether the provision has already been given under that particular section or not.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request the participants to kindly stop asking the questions. Your questions will be sent to ma'am. Ma'am, is it okay? The rest of the questions will be sent to your email. You can
Yeah, please. You can just send if you have any queries or any doubts regarding this, or even if you want any Supreme Court judgments, you can mail me. I'll try to answer as many questions as possible on the mail.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Now I request our founder, Mr. Rajendra Pal Singh, to extend vote of thanks.
I'm extremely thankful to our advisor, DK Singh sir, Advocate, Vice Chairman, Bar Council of Delhi, who supported us very for this event. And I'm thankful to Kanika ma'am. At a very short notice, she came and she guided the students and the participants. And I'm thankful to all the team members, those who have made a great success of this event. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.